stupid. Glad you picked up on that.
Hey, everybody, this is Dr. Kevin McGovern, and today, I believe, is August 5th, Thursday, and this is the 34th edition of the Prove It Live podcast. We got a great show for you today, continuing with our talk about change. And without further ado, my esteemed co-host, Mike Frary.
Thanks, Kevin. Welcome to the Prove It Live podcast, everybody. I'm Mike Frary from the Farm Baseball Performance Institute, along with my aforementioned famed partner, Kevin McGovern of Perfect Motion Sports Therapy, and Ryan Gagne-Fructis, producer at large, coming at you. Great show today. As Kevin mentioned, it's we're going to continue on change. I know it's really vague, but
very vague. Very vague.
Talking about the changes that we think really need to happen in youth sports to prevent a couple things. Number one, to promote the game. Number one, to prevent those drop-offs, those huge drop-offs in participation numbers from 12 to 13 and, 15 up and et cetera. From the positive spin is to really be able to promote the game, make kids better so that they have more success. They enjoy the game. They continue playing longer, et cetera, et cetera. So, but before we do that, we always have the top of the order. And Gagne, what do we have?
Oh, we'll start off with actually a little bit of breaking news.
Breaking news. Hold on.
The last few hours, Team USA Baseball has advanced to the gold medal game of the Tokyo Olympics here. They had a 7-2 victory over Korea, and they will be playing Japan on Saturday in the gold medal game. Now, do you guys know when the USA team last won Olympic gold? And how many done so?
I was in
baseball?
The 70s, wasn't it? Am I right?
That's a great question.
The first and only gold medal for USA Baseball in Olympics was in 2000.
Really?
2000.
Wow.
First and only time they've won gold. Now they have a chance to do so again. They lost to Japan earlier in the week.
They did. I saw that game, and that put them on a tough road to get back to where they are. So
yeah, they had to basically win out, and they strung something together. So they had a good win today, 7-2 over Korea. So they advanced to the gold medal game on Saturday against Japan.
I'm gonna watch. Definitely gonna watch that. But
when is that game on Eastern time? I don't even. Japan's what? 12 hours out of us?
Yeah, I'm in Providence that day, so I probably won't be able to watch live. But I will DVR it. And while Ryan's looking that up, the one thing I'll say is that it does drive me a little bit crazy, watching the Team USA, and I recognize Todd Frazier, Scott Kazmir, Dave Robertson, maybe two or three other players. It's definitely not the best that the USA has to offer. No knock on those guys. Those guys are phenomenal players, obviously, but it would be interesting to see what would happen if we really had all of our best players.
Well, we know what would happen, I would imagine, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Well, but do we? Because but to counter that point, if we have all of our best players, so do Japan and the Dominican and other countries like that.
We dust them.
I think we smack around.
Yeah, I think, for sure. I mean, I'd love to. I guess I would love to see a baseball dream team. Got to see that '92 with basketball.
I mean, you're trying to grow baseball, right? And you have, shouldn't MLB taken a week off or 2 weeks off and sent everybody have a dream team of if you really want to promote baseball? There's no bigger. Obviously with the whole
NHL
COVID
does that, right?
Fans, right? The NHL does it, right? Why couldn't?
Well, they do. They've done it in the past. They don't do it all the time. It always comes up in the collective bargaining agreements and all the labor disputes. I don't believe that the NHL actually at this present point
did it recently. I feel like
to send players to the Olympics in 2022, but they have built in a little a 2-week buffer into the schedule in the event that they decide to do that.
Yeah, I feel like they did that 2018.
Yeah,
right. I feel like they did.
This is weird. The 2022 Winter Olympics are 6 months away.
Right. I know. That's
because they're in this February, really?
Yeah.
Well, because
Wow.
right now we're
Oh, 'cause
watching the 2020.
it's every 2 years, right? That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're watching the 2020 Olympics right now. So that, all the signage is all 2020 Tokyo.
Gotcha.
But they postponed it because of COVID. So that'll be interesting. But I'm gonna watch. But I really.
Yeah. Do we
It's
know?
a
Do we
bit of a
find out
bummer.
when is the game actually?
I'm looking for the schedule right now. It's
That's
on,
the other thing too. You never know what the heck is on. Like it's just so.
it's Saturday morning at 6 a.m. our time.
Oh, that's not too bad. And
Not too bad.
that's live at 6 a.m.
That's live, 6 a.m. our time.
I actually might be able to watch that. So
I know that's not too bad.
And I say our time. That's Eastern time. I know we have some listeners from around the country.
Yes, Eastern time. Yes.
Yeah.
For our friends out in California, that's 3 a.m. your time.
In case you can't figure out where we are with
Yeah.
Tom Brady shirt and our constant references to the Red Sox.
All right. What else we got?
All right.
So last week we were discussing potential deals for the MLB trade deadline, which took place a day after our last show. So now we have winners and losers from the trade deadline, and there were plenty of winners and some pretty big losers as well. And I'm sure Kevin will gloat a little bit here, even though he's outnumbered, because his New York Yankees were one of the top two winners really at the trade deadline, with the top one being the LA Dodgers, who went out and seemingly got everybody. They got
just like the LA Lakers, they got everybody.
They got Max Scherzer from the Nationals.
Unbelievable.
Trey Turner, who is also from the Nationals, almost as a throw-in player for some odd reason. And then yesterday, or this morning, I should say, sometime, they went out and just signed the free agent pitcher Cole Hamels to a deal as well. So the rich getting richer. The Yankees did well as well. Picked up a couple big hitters. We talked about Joey Gallo last week. Then the move that they made.
Joey Gallo's dead.
Well, first of all, before we get off the Dodgers, I think all that's going to do is that's going to give more players to Dave Roberts to overmanage in the playoffs,
or sit on the bench.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I love Dave Roberts, but I mean, boy, he has a tendency to overmanage in the playoffs.
So now, Ryan, are all these guys over?
One big reason.
Are all these teams now over this tax, and how much is the tax? Like, what's going on? Because I know the Red Sox are saying that they didn't get anybody because of the tax, right? Is that what their excuse is?
Can I step in for a second? All right, hold on a second.
There he goes. He's getting very angry.
Why do we care? It's entertainment, right? We don't go, geez, well, hey, what happened to that show on NBC? Like, well, if they ran that show, they would have been over the luxury budget. We have sympathize for them. We go, it's a smart thing to do. Yeah, they should have. I agree with them pulling that show off the air.
This is. I mean, people are complaining about this. I don't know, like
because Mike's going into Bill Burr mode. You got to watch out.
Well, I mean, I looked at obviously your team. 2 weeks ago, absolutely embarrassed the Yankees. They looked like they were on a huge roll, right? They needed the need is obvious at first base, right? Maybe a pitcher, and you did nothing. The team's pissed, and what are you like 2-7 since they're whatever? I mean, obviously the team has been they got kicked in the groin, right?
They probably did. I think that's what you saw in that little funk. They'll break out of it. I think that Alex Cora is a really good manager. I think he's a really good player manager, and I think they'll come out. Look, if Scherzer comes back, which he's due to come back in days at this point, and he does what
Schwarber.
What did I say?
Scherzer.
That would have been nice. That's like a Freudian slip. So I wish they got that. But that's what they really needed. But Schwarber comes in and does what he's supposed to do, and they string a couple wins together, and they're good. And I think the other one, of course, is Chris Sale when he comes back. But
I don't see anyone beating the Red Sox in the East. Tampa's. I mean, they're doing it with smoke and mirror. I mean, they've lost what
again?
They're two top pitchers, right? Snell and the what's the guy whose elbow went out? They just lost another pitcher with ACL tear, and they
traded Rich Hill, who was a big arm for them, who's having a good season.
Yeah, he has a good season wherever he goes. He's
local guy.
Yeah,
he's the consummate professional pitcher.
Yeah.
You could argue is their best pitcher and trade him away, but look at. I can say this about the Rays: they have a phenomenal scouting department. Phenomenal. And not just amateur scouting, but
pro scouting. So
yeah, I mean they because they do this every year now recently, going back over probably close to 10 years. Like they're in the mix every year with, didn't we look it up? Like their Giancarlo Stanton's salary equates to half of the entire roster of the
It's crazy. It's crazy. All right.
So but I don't care about the luxury tax.
What?
You can't tell. The big loser that we're talking about here is our Boston Red Sox. They didn't do much. I mean, they did get a pretty big bat, albeit a guy that's currently on the injured list, in Kyle Schwarber, who is an outfielder by trade, but is willing to do whatever it takes. He's been working hard at first base, trying to learn the position so he can give us a much needed boost over there at that corner.
I don't know if you're looking something up or this is the Twilight Zone, but we literally just went over this.
I didn't hear that part. Yeah.
I said, like, if Schwarber comes in, and does what they got him to do. I mean, look, he was having a better season than Rizzo, like a significantly better season than Rizzo was, right? Everyone wanted Rizzo.
Well, Rizzo's made a resurgence in the last couple of days. I think he's I looked out last night. He's the first Yankee, to have an RBI in his first 6 games or something like that.
Oh, is this when he became a Yankee?
Yeah. Did I? I was very complimentary to the Red Sox, and here you go, throwing stones. Anywho, what else we got on top of yours? Is that it? Is there any LeBron news? Do we have any?
I mean, the Lakers made a bunch of moves, but who cares?
And the Lakers got the Lakers. Oh wait, the Lakers got the rest of the NBA, and the Celtics got Enes Kanter. So
the
that's
NBA
good.
Doesn't even count because.
And I don't like the sport of basketball, and if I were to root for a team, it would obviously be the Celtics. I can understand why the Celtics aren't doing anything right now. They want to wait until next year when they have room to make a supermax deal and pair somebody up with Tatum and Brown. That's looking like what they're really what they're aiming for. They're doing a lot of these 1-year deals. I heard they're talking about bringing back Isaiah Thomas, who was a Boston football legend for a short period of time. Again, kind of shoring up and putting pieces together for 1-year deals so that they can make a big splash next year. And I think that's the play that they're going with.
I can watch the Celtics. I have trouble watching the rest of the NBA. I just don't. It's like a different sport than I grew up. Look, that was my other sport. I love basketball, but good Lord, some of the looking the other way on some of the fouls, not fouls, but
muggings.
Yeah. Well, just know, like, you can take 4 steps in a spin, like lose your pivot foot, like all this stuff that were just like no-nos back in the day. But anyway.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about the fouls. You're right. I mean, you look at somebody the wrong way. You sneeze on somebody, it's a foul.
Right.
You go to the 80s, Bill Laimbeer was tackling people.
Oh, yeah.
Get up, walk it off.
Rick Mahorn, Charles Oakley, all those guys. Yep.
I had a video game, for Super Nintendo called Bill Laimbeer's Combat Basketball. You were literally, that's
amazing.
That was
that
the
really
name of the game.
Combat basketball. Fantastic.
Yeah. That's awesome. Just like knuckle somebody on their driving lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Spear tackle.
All right, so our main topic we're talking about change, right? We talked about Little League last week, and we actually had a question from one of my patients who was a listener of the podcast. And she got the question off of a mom's group, which is, when is it age appropriate for a kid to start throwing a curveball? And that was coming from a mother whose child was 9. So my answer to that was,
36.
Yeah, I said it doesn't matter if they're 9, 10, 20, or 25. If the mechanics are wrong with a fastball, the curveball is just going to do just as much damage. Now, a lot of people think that it's really the curveballs and the breaking ball that injure your elbow. I would say that it's the fastball, because the elbow is locked out at such a higher velocity, whereas curveball, you get that full jamming extension. You don't necessarily get that with breaking pitches. So the difference of joints, when you lock out a joint, that's called your hard pack position, meaning it's locked, and then loose pack would mean essentially there's some give into it. So, I mean, at least when I threw breaking pitches, not well, of course, as we all know, my elbow never locked out like that. So it's certainly not necessarily the curveballs that cause elbow injuries. I think that is a myth. It's truly, it's like we've been saying, the mechanics of it. So
Well, I want to challenge that for a second because
challenging.
And by the way, research backs you up. You know, it has been researched. I believe ASMI, you know, Dr. James Andrews' offices as well. They've done studies on this, and they say that also that is true, that the fastball is actually more injurious. And I'll challenge it. First of all, there's so many variables, right? So you can't just take 30 kids because, like, as you said, mechanics play a huge role. So
mechanics, size, maturity, puberty, ability, right?
Like the arm path mechanics, especially, and then the sequential motion, those mechanics. But all right, that aside, okay, and I think everyone that's ever played baseball cannot be out there throwing a ball. Oh wow, I haven't thrown in like 3 months. My arm's feeling good. Maybe it's been a year. Wow, it's feeling so good. You know what? I'm going to try to snap one off. Ow. We've all been there. Why? All there. So like, I don't, and here's the other thing I want to talk to you about, right? We talked about like the hand pronates, right? So you throw a fastball, you end up pronating out 90 degrees. You're going palm forward 90 degrees. So that's like a 90-degree pronation. When you throw a curveball, you're throwing it in here. So isn't that extra torque on the elbow as you're releasing?
Absolutely. But again, like you said, you know, when did the torque happen? You know, to me, it's all about the timing or when in the sequence did the arm do what it's supposed to. You know, at the end of the day, we all finish here, but how do we get there? What went first? What went second? All those are variables. And you'd rack your brain at how many variables that there absolutely are. And yes, you can go and snap one off, and it might hurt, it might not. You know, if there's so many variables with that to say, you know, we're not going to let someone throw a curveball. Like I wouldn't even let's throw fastballs with just, you know, different grips, right? We can move our fingers here, throw the same pitch, the ball will move. Let's get kids to throw. And to throw with good mechanics before we worry about little Johnny throwing curveballs. He's 9. Like, well, I don't even know why that even comes up. Like,
well, that's the thing. You know, we
can, as you know, we can grip the ball here. It's going to move one way. Here, it's going to move one way. Here, it's going to move. And that's just at that age. Let's throw 5 strikes in a row first with a fastball before we're worrying about throwing curveballs.
But also, right, in talking about that torque on the elbow, and I have not seen this researched. Right, this is just what I know about what happens with the arm and hand when we throw. With kids, open growth plates, I mean, we've seen in our experience, and again, maybe it's coincidence. I know, you know, correlation does not equal causation. I understand that. But we've had kids.
Hold on. Okay, got it. That was good, Mikey. Thanks,
I like
that.
I know I've used it before.
That was. I mean, we've got injurious. And then, wow, that's good.
Yeah. Now you lost my train of thought. No,
correlation doesn't equal causation.
We've had, and maybe it's a coincidence. That's what I meant by that, is that we've had kids who have had arm issues, especially the younger age pre-growth plate, who are snapping off breaking balls more than kids who were just stayed fastball change up until they were, you know, 14 and 15 years old.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. The kids are going to throw it, right? Teammates are throwing it. So even if little Johnny tells you he doesn't throw breaking balls, he doesn't throw them in the game, he probably doesn't. But he's absolutely doing that on the side, you know, from time to time. And it's okay to learn how to throw it. I just think that you got to be smart about not just what they're throwing, how often they're throwing, which is the other thing too, right? I mean, what's the throwing workload like? You know, is he throwing? And this is the thing. Just experiential story. I remember seeing a kid. This is a team. One of our teams that graduated 2 years ago, and they were like 12. Okay, so this is well back, and I can't remember the exact team, but we were playing, and Ryan will know the field. We're in Weston, Massachusetts, at Burt Field, and this kid threw like 80 pitches. 40 of them were breaking balls. 40 of them, and after the game, when we look over, see that kid, you know, his dad's got his ice wrapped up in a big ice pack, you know, like he's just came out of like, you know, Game 6 of the World Series. And we played that same team the next day. Kid's not there, injured his elbow. And I think it was an avulsion fracture. So, you know, pulled the growth plate right off the bone.
Jeez.
Off the muscle. So, yeah. So, I mean, again, could be coincidence. in our experience, the kids that really stay to the fastball changeup, they seem to be healthier than the kids who are snapping up breaking balls. But I also understand that the kids who are snapping up breaking balls are also the kids who they fancy themselves as pitchers first. That's their primary thing. So maybe they're pitching more, maybe they throw harder also, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's hard to figure out, but my recommendation would be lay off it.
As is mine. I mean, I think that your formula that you use, you want to touch on that? Yeah. Well, tell me, how you talk the pitching like innings. So I think and just go over that for 1 sec for people who might not know, and then I can give you my statement.
So and this varies obviously by age, and it varies, and this changes with the time of year. So let's say it's April. Okay. So it's one of our first weekends in April, and it's 46 degrees, which we're also going to take into consideration, right? That the weather's cold. Our 12-year-olds will probably have a pitch limit per inning of 11. All right. 10, 11 pitches. Okay. And you go, well, that's really hard to obtain. Well, we understand that, but you go out there with the idea that this kid can pitch a complete game today. Like, how many innings are you going to let him throw? He can throw the whole game.
If it's 77 pitches.
Right. So, but if it's you got say 10 pitches per inning. Now for the 12s, that's only 6 innings. So his max would be 60.
So 60. Okay.
Right. Gotcha. That would be his max in that day. But if he goes over that 10, we shave an inning off the back end. So now he can only pitch 5 innings. He throws 11 the next inning. Now he can only throw 4 innings.
Right.
And
that's that's so great. I think you could take that if you have a kid who's, body mature, mechanically sound, a good pitcher. I think that's what you could do with you can modify that formula for breaking pitches. You can take the same thing. Look, we got a strike the ball ratio of X. Right. Okay, we can add a curveball. That strike the ball ratio now changes. No, you can throw 2 this inning, or like the good mechanics and results of the pitching will earn the bonus of a curveball of a slider, rather than what I'm saying. But your meat and potatoes are fastballs and changeups for strikes. We get those for strikes. Yeah, 0-2, you can throw a curveball. Now that hits the backstop, well, now you lose it. You lose an inning or something like that. I think that you could tailor, because I think that's ingenious, to be quite honest with you. That formula, I love it. I love it. I think that's like really, really sound, scientific thing you can apply, that anyone can apply. Like it's just math at the end of the day, which I think is fantastic.
And if anybody who's listening has questions about how we scale that as the months go on and the starts go on, just shoot us a message or email. We can get that.
Email the show at info@proveitlive.com.
Yep.
And cool. So that'll wrap. Oh, go ahead. Let's share the point about.
I think this is kind of rolling right into what we were, continue about the idea of change and how do we change? That idea of the pitch count, I think, is one, or come up with your own system, but make sure it's sound and make sure you're taking more things in consideration other than just the total number, because there's so many ways that can go wrong, as we've spoken about before, which is, we were talking to one of our 9U, rising 10U parents, that we had. He's in our first year program for us our program last year, or any program for him. Great little student player. He's great kid, right? Like just the ideal type of student, loves to pitch. And he played some summer ball this year. And he was telling us that the team that they were playing, he said their own coach was very good about, watching pitch limits, and they were going off a pitch safe, which is all they have, right? So you can't ask more of them. Nope. And he was following that guideline. The opponent had, same age group. So this is 9 or 10U. I think he's playing up at 10, if I remember correctly. He's 9 himself. The opponent, they had this kid pitch 50 pitches back-to-back days. 9 years old, 10 years old, right? I mean, why? Why is that win at 10U so important to you as an adult?
Yeah, dude, the 10-year-old championship, dude. Are you kidding me?
Like, gotta get that dub.
It's like the Metro League 10-year. I mean, that's like an esteemed trophy there. Yeah, crazy.
So this is how we have to change. I mean, this has to change. It has to change, because the injuries, right? We haven't mentioned, they keep going up, and it's from big leagues all the way down. I was talking to another parent recently, Kevin. This is one of our softball players. Okay. The girl has a little brother, plays in a program, and one of his teammates, Same thing. Had like I think it was an avulsion fracture, and for the same reason, just like overthrowing. Like they know what it was. They had them. He was pitching and catching.
Oh, so it was pitching, a pitcher and a catcher. Oh,
and I said and so in this particular player, right, this family of ours in the softball program, the boy's not in our program. They live a little too far away, but I said, well, what's your buddy? She said, well, he does that too. He pitches and catches. And I said, you got to stop that. You got to step in and stop that. And I said, especially I go, if they're like, doing things. And I said, I've seen this before where, they want to take the pitcher out. They bring the catcher and they flip flop them. She goes, oh, he's done that.
Oh boy. Yeah.
And this is travel ball.
Right. That's not safe.
That's town travel, but it's not, it's still,
sure.
It's really alarming. And so if you're wondering like where these, injuries are coming from, I don't think you have to look too far. You have to pay attention, but there's,
not.
The workload of catching, as you know, Kevin, and then the pitch on the heels.
It's too much. It's too much. I even say like, someone, especially like the left-handed kids he went and played first base after. Okay. Yeah. So in between, so now he's out of pitching. So in between innings now, he's got to throw ground balls to the third base, so ground balls to the shortstop, ground balls to the second base. Those are all throws, right? Those are all throws.
Not only to mention that, though, I mean, I played first base, and it's very rare you see people doing the proper mechanics and actually throwing overhand and spiking the ball in.
Right.
When you throw a ground ball at first base, you're going sidearm like this. You're letting it skip. That's what kids do.
You got to, so that pitch smart thing, if it was, should accompany all throws, really, right? The throw's a throw, right? I mean, it should be all throws, but, not just.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously a pitch is producing a lot more force, right?
Of course. But I mean, basically, I think we're saying that something, again, needs to change, hence the.
Right. Well, go ahead.
I was just, bring on now that, we get out of Little League now. For me, the age of really kind of ambiguity here of what's happening, you guys can agree or disagree, is 13 now. We've gone from what could be the big fish in the little pond, now 13-year-old kid, full-blown puberty now, right? Growing, things are changing now. The field that we went on just increased in size, and now that brings in a whole different set of problems. How are you guys, what do you, is it, between you guys, you have a 13U, is that what are you, or 14? Like, so what are you doing? The diamond change. Like, let's just talk about something that we can't control. It's now, the basketball court stays the same length the whole time. Now we've changed the diamond. What are you guys doing? What different things are you doing? What's different between 12U and 13U that you guys are doing?
Well, first of all, I think you got to take it back to 10U, because 10U, even in travel ball or club ball, a program like ours, and we're all development first, but we do have to play baseball games. And at 10U, we're on the Little League field.
Right.
So that's the 60-foot bases, 40-foot mound. Now, in Little League, and in most Little League style, programs, I think Cal.
So when you say Little League, are we talking Williamsport that we see on? Okay, so the Little League World Series.
Yes, that's Little League.
Okay.
Little League as an actual brand.
Okay.
And then I think Cal Ripken's the only one that does this differently in what I'm about to say. But in Little League, for instance, you stay in that little diamond for 10, 11, and 12. And after 12, you jump from a 60-foot bases, 40-foot mound to 90-foot bases, 60-foot mound. And that is a real difficult transition. And we see some issues with that as well. But what I will say is that one of the things that is beneficial for travel and club ball, our 11s and 12s will play at an intermediate diamond in between those two. And the intermediate diamond dimensions are 70-foot bases, 50-foot mounts. It's right in between the huge diamond or the full-size diamond and the Little League diamond. The addition of that is the kids learn how to play real baseball, because you can take leads, pitchers have to learn how to pitch from the stretch, etc. But that's a good transition, as if you watch a Little League World Series, and I'm sure you have, especially today. It's not like when we were kids. These kids they look like they're playing on a toy field.
They look monsters.
Monstrous.
So Mike, this intermediary diamond, what age group? That's 11 and 12s.
Yeah.
11
And
and
now
12.
is that just the travel ball, or like because the town leagues aren't doing that, right? Or what?
The
Or
town
are
that I
they?
live in, the town that I live in does do it, and so
So,
there
okay,
are.
so that is happening now.
So if you're a town, if you live in a town that where you have a little league actual brand name, you get a patch that says Little League Baseball, you will not go to the intermediate diamond at 11, 12. But not all. Now most towns, I don't know what the percentage is, but I would guess that it's probably close to 90+% of the towns are associated with Little League. Some towns aren't. The town that I live in is not. I believe it's Cal Ripken, and I don't know for sure, so I'm pretty sure it's Cal Ripken. And they, once you get to 11 and 12, they also do the same thing. In fact, the other thing they do differently in our town, which I like, is they go by grades rather than age.
Okay.
Which I think is smart.
No, they have to have 2 mounds, right? I mean, you got to have 2 different.
Portable.
Right?
They use portable mounds, right?
They use a portable one. Okay. Okay.
Yep. And a lot of the intermediate fields, by the way, are portable themselves. So they have, dirt, right? So you can go to 60 or 70-foot bases.
Okay.
But we have a field here in town that's built specifically for the intermediate diamond, and you're seeing more of them pop up.
Now, how do you guys think that works? Does that make the transition
amazingly well?
So it makes the transition to the big diamond, I'm assuming, much easier, right? Or
much easier. Here's where we run into trouble. 13U is a difficult. So you said, you said
that's a tough age.
Puberty, and I kind of made a face because, I make the joke all the time, and Ryan's heard it so many times, he's probably driving crazy when I say it. But, I'm taller than every one of my 13U players, and I'm shorter than every one of my 14U players. And that's really the year that the kids really grow. But some kids do get big at 13U. But I would like to see maybe, and again, depending on, maybe it's a different age cutoff. I don't know what it is. Maybe they take a page out of like what Pop Warner used to do and not go by age at that point, but go by size, something, right? Where they stay on that intermediate diamond one more year. Because here's the problem with the big diamond. This is the thing that has to change. Getting back to the change is that diamond, no matter, even if you're coming from the intermediate, it's still a big jump. It's a big difference. You put a 10-year-old example from Little League and put them on the intermediate, it's going to be a huge difference, right? So, and it's the biggest difference for pitchers. And, I can tell you what we do. You asked what we do, right? So number one, we transition our 10-year-olds from when they go to 11 years old to the intermediate diamond. They stay there at 12. When they go to 13, we're not playing back-to-back double headers on weekends. And this is the big thing that I see out there.
Okay.
Way too many programs are playing back-to-back double headers. And Ryan's seen it because he coaches that age level. I even see it at the 14. I coach a 14U team as well. And on Sunday, everyone's out of arms. And they're like, I got to bring this poor kid just pitched yesterday. I got to bring him back in. And I'm like, what are we doing? Why? Why is the number of games so important? Your developmental age.
I hear that a ton. Oh, well, we play 60 games, right?
Crazy.
It's like 60 games. That's
flat out.
That's a lot, man. Like, that's yeah.
We have a program that will play for us. They'll play, 20 to 30 games, depending on, tournaments, playoffs, that sort of thing. And then they'll still play town ball and summer travel ball. And they really could get up to playing about 60 games in a year, which is a lot.
Well, and go ahead.
So now my question is, you guys are doing or soon to be doing tryouts, right? This is about the time when you start to do tryouts. Do you see, because obviously there's tons of numbers that say, so-and-so play Little League, and that the Little League World Series certainly does not transition into playing high school baseball. We've been over that. Like that, those numbers go right down the hill. Do you see a drop off at that 13, 14 as far as players coming in to just try out or inquire about, I'm sure there's more, is there more 10 and 11-year-olds compared to 13-year-olds, like as far as tryouts or no, those numbers say this. I'm just trying to figure out like where does the drop off of participation happen? You know what I'm saying? Like, where does that?
It is 12 to 13.
Is it that 13 that, little Johnny was great and now he can't hit because, it's caught up to him or what?
There's a lot of reasons. So 12 to 13 is the biggest drop off. 75% roundabouts, 75% of 12-year-old little leaguers do not go on to play.
That's insane.
At 13. But there's lots of reasons.
Just at 13. Just at 13.
because you have to remember that there's going to be a large percentage of kids that little league is just something they do as an activity. That baseball is not their top sport. Maybe they don't love it. They just like it. Right. And they know at 13, the big diamond, everything's intimidating. Hey, I don't like it that much. I'm just going to bow out. So there's that. There's also, the success rates, right? So if you're a kid that's, tying into a ball and you're little and you're barely getting out of a little league field, you're going to look at the diamond, you're going to go, there's no way I can get there. So that's where the change in the teaching and why we have to teach proper mechanics in baseball. And again, I understand volunteer coaches at the town level. I understand that. But again, if you're a league, having your coaches trained, having a certification program we talked about last episode is critical, because if you can just teach 4 basic things, 5 basic things of hitting, 5 basic things of fielding, 5 basic things of catching, 5 basic things of infielding, etc., or throwing, you'll have those kids will have more success, and success is what's going to keep those kids playing.
Right.
It takes a special person to be a baseball player anyway. And I don't say that, I know I'm biased, but what I mean by that is, in no other sport do you fail as often as you do in this sport. And not only that, and again, like I said, I played basketball and I've always said, God's little prank on me was he gives me this passion for baseball, this talent in basketball in the body of a fullback. Right. So I don't look like a basketball player.
There's not 5'7" point guards running around. No.
And I'm more than 5'7", jackass. Anyway, so in basketball, if I miss a shot, even if it's a big shot, I don't have time to dwell on it. I got to get back down the court to play defense. Right. So I strike out with the bases loaded and I'm a center fielder. I got to go back out on defense and I got to sit there and think about that for how God knows how long. Right. So it takes a special. So the more success that we can provide for the kids. Right. And that's just learning. This is a skill sport. You can learn how to be good at this. If you teach, properly, you can teach a kid how to be good, at least have more success. And I think that number will shrink. Now we see more kids, right, Ryan? We probably see more kids at 13 than 12. And I think the reason for that, Kevin, is that those kids that do want to go on to play, they don't want to return. They don't want to stay in town. Right? Yes. They want to play at a higher level at that point. These are the kids that decided this sport's for me. That's really the year. And so that's why we see a ton of kids come out at 13 years old.
I gotcha.
And it is a good age, because now look, if we can get you at 10 or 11 years old and develop you until you're 17, you're talking, potential D1 for sure, right? Like you're going to be really good. But 13, we still have lots of time. We still have lots of time to develop you and to turn you into a good player. So it's a good age. And I know we said before, but 14, yes, but 13. And then after that, it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously, what I see, I'm sure you guys see the same thing. It's certainly the same kid at 12 when they get to 13 could appear completely different. You could have someone who looks very athletic when they're 12, and then when they're 13, you'd be like, what happened to this kid?
And vice versa.
And vice versa. The growth spurts and I think as a coach and on both, like on my side of the house and your side of the house, really has to be keen in on making sure that every movement is fundamentally correct all the time, so that you're constantly building and reiterating good mechanics, good movements, because this is that body's doing, daily, I'm seeing kids now have got, scoliosis things, they've got growth plates issues and all it. And I'm doing, the same formula, restoring proper kinesiologically correct movement. And that's got to be key. Now, the other curveball for you guys is, when do you start your strength and conditioning program? What age? Is it 13?
13.
So at that point, now we're talking, now we've gone big diamond. Now we're adding resistance strength. We're adding another component to your training. So there's a lot of change going on at 13. No pun intended. A lot of balls in the air at that point are coming at these kids, right?
100%. And look, and that's where we step it up. That's where we start training 3 days a week. And look, we are the program for the kid who's serious about continuing, to play baseball. And no matter what the skill level is at the moment, if you know that you want to play college baseball and that's your dream, then so in order to do that, it's our belief that you got to be training 3 days a week, at 13 years. So you're right. There are a lot of big changes, and it gets a little bit more I hate to use the word serious because it's not like we're serious,
No,
but,
right.
but it's serious in the way that the number of days
Sure.
you train, et cetera, et cetera. But I would say, because I know we're up against time here, the biggest thing that I see is again, it comes back to the pitching, and the giant thing that has to change is those innings, because we had a kid in just yesterday. One of Ryan, the kid that played on Ryan's team this year, he's been with us since he was 10 years old. We're doing fall ball, and we didn't do fall ball, Kevin, for a few years because we were trying to like shut arms down. But
Right.
we didn't. We offered something else that was fully developmental. We had really good participation the first year. Second year died down a little bit. Third year was like, nah. And what we found out was these kids were going and playing somewhere else. They were playing fall ball for their town or some other.
Yep.
And so we go, all right, well, we're just going to do it. So at least we can
Have control over
have
something,
control
right?
of the arm. So, there's got to be a formula for people listening, right? So you have to have an idea. If you're a parent, you have to have an idea of how many innings your kids pitched, right? Your travel program, if you're in a travel program, should absolutely have that number for you. So that's easy. But then you got to add town. So, for our 13-year-olds, right after the season, Babe Ruth season starts. And so they do Babe Ruth, and then they do Babe Ruth All-Stars and
Right.
other travel things. So you have to have an idea. Now, if you've pitched 60 innings, that's a lot for a 13-year-old. I would say no fall ball, right?
That's it.
No, don't continue into the fall.
As a no
You
fall
can play,
ball as
no
a
pitching.
pitcher. Okay.
As
Yeah,
a
yeah,
pitcher,
no pitching.
as
Yeah.
a pitcher, right? I should make that clear. And that's what we were saying to this kid, because I said, are you playing fall? I hadn't heard back from you. He's like, yeah, me and my parents are talking about it. I'm not sure. And I said, look, we don't have to pitch you. Let's figure out because he is the top pitcher on that team.
I see.
And
Right.
and every team he goes to wants to pitch him. So we talked about that before too, like being that guy. Every team you go to, they want to throw you as often as they can.
Right.
And that's good for them. It's bad for you. So
you.
anyway, have an idea of how many, I would say that, at 13 years old, I think around 60 innings should be your max for spring, summer, fall total.
Okay.
Shouldn't be more than that. If you get up into the, into the 60s, near 70, like, I don't think you should be scared or worried about anything, but I think that that's the real top of the mark. And you got to be able to plan accordingly. You have to take for travel programs. They're the ones that should be looking out for your kid, but no one's going to do it better than the parent. So the parent, you got to know what these numbers are, and you got to speak up, and this goes all the way up to, like what we talked about last week, till we have high school kids that went to showcases and they made kids throw 50 pitches back-to-back days there too. And I got a kid that's hurt for that. He's not injured, which is great, but
he's hurt.
And I'm like, you got to advocate for yourself. No one's going to care about you like you do or your parents do.
Right.
And just on top of that, I would say you've got to listen. You've got to communicate with your child, and you've got to listen to the, pain is a bad thing. When there's pain, when there's discomfort, the bells and whistles should be going off. The body shouldn't be in pain, shouldn't have elbow pain throwing. That's a warning. So you've got to have good communication, with your child, because that's the first thing I say. If I don't know you're hurt, I can't help you. So if you're withholding information, I'm not going to be able to help you. And I always say you can't get a college scholarship at 13, but you can certainly blow one. So.
Yep.
Oh, good, man. Good segment. All right. What do we got next?
We're at the tip of the day here, or tip of the week, I should say.
Oh, all right. Let me share my screen here. So this is a social media post that I did yesterday, the day before. So one of the, we talk about movement, right? We have to crawl before we walk. So here's a picture of a young lady doing a lunge. Okay. And I've drawn in some arrows here. Okay.
Nice
a lunge.
job.
Thank you, man. So, a lunge is a, for those who don't know, is a back leg exercise. Okay. It's the back leg that's getting the brunt of the movement. And everything we talk about, a lunge should be 90 degrees of the torso and the pelvis, 90 degrees of the hip and the knee before we add anything. So, with this here, you see her up on a step. She's got weights. Her knee is over her toe. There is a tremendous amount of force on that knee joint. We go to the other knee. The knee is just imagine what kind of compromised position this knee is in, right? So we want to be mechanically sound and know exactly the purpose of the exercise. The purpose of a lunge is glute, hamstring, believe it or not, pelvic floor, back extensors. Okay. Not knee, not quad. Okay. So we want to make sure that we're doing things completely correct before we add not only weight, but now a change in surface as well. So, although I'm sure this lady could do the correct way, but this is not a correct positioned lunge. And of course, this is just a standard picture off the internet. So
I see this. We see this all the time.
Yeah.
Kevin.
So someone is seeing that. Here's someone's seeing that picture and be like, oh no, that's the way to do a lunge. No, because this is off one of those those picture whatever you pay $2 and get. This is awful. Right. So someone's like, oh, that's the proper lunge. And it's not. Right. And I'm sure you see it. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's all. I just say we see it all the time. So it's not just that picture that we ran into one that's doing it wrong. Like that's what we see all the time. In fact, we see kids rushing through lunges. I think, and you could disagree, I don't know, Kevin, but I like lunges, not a ton of them, but I like lunges as a dynamic warm up on the fields, right? Step to lunge, get up, right?
It's a great exercise, Mike. Great.
Yeah.
I mean, because don't forget, if we're looking, a lunge is essentially, if we move the other leg forward, that's a squat. I mean, that's right. It's the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Right. So yeah, absolutely.
And we see kids all the time rushing, because it's an exercise. There's like lunging forward and rushing it. So yeah, I think that's a big one. I do also have a tip of the week. It's to not eat yellow snow. Don't eat yellow snow.
As it is pouring rain here. Imagine if this were snow.
Oh, I know.
You have 2 feet.
So my tip of the week is going to be a real simple one, and this is something that I was doing some lessons this week, and it sort of just came up as a recurring theme, as often stuff does for some reason, or maybe I'm just paying attention to something more than another time, but seems to be these patterns. And one of the things, especially towards the end of the year, kids have been playing all season long. A lot of kids have come away from development, not intentionally, but it's season time. So they're playing. And, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel come summertime either. We want those kids to go and play, get their reps. We don't want mechanical stuff in their head. But now is the time where seasons are ending and we're starting to get back into development. And what I always like to do is I like to strip it all back down at the end of the summer, beginning of fall, and say, all right, let's pretend you've never hit before. Let's pretend you're in here for the first time in your life, even if it's a player we've been developing for 5 years, because it's never a bad idea to work on the very basics. And so when we're working off a tee, it's essential. We go back to hitting as math, right? It's essential that you use the stronger muscles of your body to swing the bat, right? The engine of your swing is your legs and your core, not your arms, not your shoulders. And so, and the other thing is, don't be result based. And what I mean by that is when you're hitting off the tee, and this is related to what I'm about to say. So when you're hitting off the tee, don't worry about where the ball goes from when I'm talking about what we're about to say here. It doesn't matter. All right. I could get up there. I could take awful swings, mechanically unsound swings, and hit the ball wherever I want. I've been doing it a long time. I can direct the ball. That's what the hands are for, is to direct the ball, hit it where you want, control the barrel. What you want to do this time of year is really get back to the basic fundamentals of using your legs and core. I want you to hit off the tee. Pretend you don't have arms. In your mind, you're like this. Your arms are behind your back. I want you to
Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Yeah, pretend the bat's just an extension of your back hip, and get your foot down and turn. Okay, there's lots of mechanics involved there. I understand. Okay, but that one basic thing is when you're working off the tee, work on not using it. Your hands should not move from load position all the way to contact. Remember, we've talked about it before. Load position, in terms of where the hands are, we're just presetting contact. That's why load position's the same with every good hitter, everyone. No matter how they start, they could be up here, they could be like this, right? No matter what, they all come to here. And that's we're just presetting contact. So when we turn, right, we're right at the perfect contact point. So don't overuse your hands, especially this time of year. If you're done with your season, get back to really practicing using your legs. You can then gradually increase your hand path to that swing.
Nice.
Yep.
All right. Is it time?
It is.
Why would you do that?
Why did you do that? All right, Ryan, what do we got today, buddy? Cue it up.
We've got a good one today. Take a look at this guy here. So,
is this in honor of the balance beam Olympics? Is that what this is?
Yes. Yep. In honor of the bronze medal from Simone Biles.
Okay, this is it. Here we go. Okay.
So, the caption on this, it's beam work, and it says, "Hold the ground, stay centered." Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, I'd like to make a note that on at least 2 of the 3 swings, he's not being centered. He's not saying centered. He's actually, his head is drifting for the center line, right? He's kind of holding the ground, though it's a little bit shaky. Now, I don't know why you do this, right? And so we always try to, when we do the why would you do that, so we always try to look at okay, what do we think the intent would be? Because sometimes the intent is well-intentioned, right?
Right.
And so I don't know what this could possibly do unless this kid was jumping in the air and with both feet off the ground when he was swinging the bat. All right. And that was so important to stay in the ground. But even if that were the case, Ryan, as you know, there'd be 0 need for the kettlebell behind his foot, which the only time I've seen that being used is to prevent something from moving. And it looks like he doesn't want this coach here does not want this hitter's back foot to rotate or to pivot. He doesn't want, or just to turn, right? And people get mad at the word pivot. Like, don't you squish the bug. I'm not talking about that. Back leg's if your back leg turns properly, your foot should go with it. Otherwise, unless you're super flexible, right? And he's preventing that from happening. He's showing that he doesn't want to use zip. Now, kudos to this kid for either the work he's already put in or what he's trying to do is his hips are still moving a bit, right? And I think that's almost natural, right? I mean, you get a little kid, a 4-year-old that's never swung, they actually tend to turn their hips naturally. But just what I was just talking about, if you can't use your legs to swing the bat, okay, eventually, not now, Gary, if you're 13, can't do it, right?
Sure.
You're not going to be able to consistently hit faster pitches as you get older because it becomes a math equation. You're not going to swing the bat at 70 plus miles an hour with your arms. It's not going to happen. Okay. You have to use your legs to do that. Okay. Now, you say, well, we got some pretty strong guys, got some real well-built guys. Okay. The legs are on average, 20 times stronger than the arms? Something to that equation.
Something to that equation. Yeah.
So it's not going to happen. I don't care how big you are.
Not those.
Yeah. You're definitely an exception. Obviously.
Obviously. Yeah.
Obviously. But your legs and core.
Right. But Mike, I mean, to me, this is just building a bad habit. It's something you don't want to even do. So I don't understand. Again, exercises drill should have a purpose. We talk about that. I don't see the purpose here. I'm not even sure what, but so again, why would you do that?
and look, this is drills for the sake of doing drills. I know we say it all the time, right? But I had this, I think I told the story before, but back in our old facility next door, we had this guy come in one day. He had been at the coaches convention in Connecticut and said, "Hey, I want to stop by, give you my card. I'd love to come up and do a clinic at your facility here." Like, of course, we do our own training. And this is a former college high-level Division I coach. And he says, "You give me 1 hour, I'll give you 100 drills." And I'm like, well, all right, first of all, the math doesn't work out with that, right? Number one.
Right.
Number two, okay, so what is that? Look at, you know what's a good drill? What a good baseball drill? Grab a bat, get a tee, put a ball on it, have somebody video your swing. Take swings at baseballs on regular ground, regular surfaces, standing on beams, putting your foot up on a Bosu ball, sitting on an exercise, all this other weird stuff. All you're going to do is you're going to create muscle memory for that particular drill.
Right.
And in most of these drills, the motions are incorrect. Practice makes permanent. So,
all right. Well, good show, gentlemen. And
right back at you.
Oh, we had good timing on the show.
Very good. Yeah, very good timing. So, all right.
All right, folks.
Well, thank you for listening, guys, and we will certainly see you next week.
Yes.